Welcome back to another video. This week we're going to discuss something super topical. It's why me and Ams never left the UK to work in Australia, Canada, Middle East, despite the lucrative offer, despite being able to make millions. I don't know if that's true or not. You know, free tax systems, you get free drivers, free healthcare, you get everything for free, right? Ams, why are you still here? You're a fully qualified doctor. Why are you still here? Why are you not in Australia in the beach, bro?
That's the question everyone asks. So on the TikTok that's creating havoc again, people are asking, well, if you don't like it, pack your bags and just go to the US, go to Australia, New Zealand, wherever you like. But you forget how deep your roots are. If you've got shallow roots, it's fine. My roots are far too deep. My family. I think the number one reason is family, right? I can't leave family just for what? Money? What? If I move countries, what am I truly going for? It's money. It's not for working life balance, because when we talk about work life balance, what's life? What's life to you?
Life is spending time with friends, family, enjoying my time off, being able to relax, hobbies, do what I want to do.
But a lot of that, where does it come from? A lot of that comes from socializing, or does it? Does it come from socializing for you?
For me, the work-life balance, a lot of it is friends and family.
There you go.
It's not even going out and drinking or whatever, right? For me, it's spending time with friends and family, especially now that we have young families, right? That's the work-life balance for me.
So there you go. So if I was to go abroad, right? Okay, my money, you could say, yeah, fine, I would go for money, right? But if I went for work-life balance, what life is there? If my family's all here, if my friend circle is all here, if everyone I've ever networked and sort of conversed with is all in the UK, no one is abroad. I can start brand new, but starting brand new at my age is far too... It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a new culture that I will have to learn at the age of 29. So it's far too much for me to do now. So for anyone to say to me, pack your bags and just go if you want better money and a better life outside, my family aren't going to come with me. Right? So I think that's my number one reason. The reason why I can't leave is just because of family.
On that point is, when you move to a country abroad, even if you can handle it, what about your wife? What about your kids and children? How would they feel? Would they be settled? When you relocate, it's like restarting your social support network, right? So your wife needs to go make new friends. She needs to readjust. Your kids, if they're in school, need to go make new friends. I think kids are a bit more resilient because they're kids and they're open and more receptive to things. But from having to move literally 100 miles from London to work in Coventry, I hated it. I got homesick. And a lot of people, so there's a lot of hype about going to America, going to Australia and Dubai and massive lucrative offers and benefits, right? But no one talks about the sacrifices that need to be made. A lot of people go there, they feel homesick. A lot of them people come back. A lot of the people don't have the deep, meaningful relationships that they built over years here. We were born and brought up here. Our friends and family are here. And a lot of people, for some reason, miss that bit out. They give this skewed representation, like, yo, you can easily go to Australia or America. And there are other things that we can talk about later. Like, you have to sit exams to go and study to work in America. These exams are expensive. You need to study and work hard. You need to balance the revision with your training or however you want to do it. So I think for both me and you, the reasons why we didn't go to America, Canada, whatever, is we have very strong support systems, or a lot of our family here. And the second thing is, and maybe this is not a disadvantage, is our socioeconomic background. So if you go away and you're the eldest in your family, as I am on my side, let's say your parents need to go to hospital and stuff like that. You've been doing that for a long time. You support them, right? If you're in Australia, like 24 hours away, who looks after them, right?
Exactly. So responsibility, I guess, is another thing. So I think, yeah, you're right. So some of the things that anchor you down into your location and where you are is also responsibility. So right now, not only are you responsible and looking after your parents, right? You've got a kid, you've got a wife, right? So those anchors are now even heavier. All right. So, okay, let me take you back to a scenario then. Let me change it for you now. Say you were now an F2 doctor, you finished foundation training, you're not married, you haven't got a child, your parents are very, let's say they're relatively young, independent. They themselves are up and down the country doing their own thing. They've got a business or something, let's say, yeah? Now, if I said to you, why don't you move? Would you now say, I'm now more open to moving, or no, my family's still here? What would you what would you do now if I took those anchors away?
I think, I don't know, man. I'm so skewed by my past experiences where, like, I want to stay as close to home as possible. The same way I want my commute from home to the hospital I work in to be as small as possible. Like, and the friends I've made, the lifelong friends I have, I'm content with them, right? Like, we have an existing relationship, a history. Like, I'm all right. Like, it's calm. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So even if I had the opportunity, right, knowing me as an individual, knowing myself, what I like, how I am as an individual, I'm not, when it comes to stuff like working, I don't like much change, right? Which is very different to how I'm outside of work, right? I know even if I had no anchors, nothing tying me down, I still would feel very uncomfortable going abroad and working. I'm the type of guy, I hate working on a different ward if I worked on one ward for a week. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So get a country.
So you're saying to be a doctor now. All right, let me change it up. Our investors are listening now. So if now someone says to you, say Sequoia, A16Z, YCOM, some of the biggest venture capitalists out there, they say, all right, Abdul, we're going to give you $25 million, all right, for your startup, not for you, for your startup. But we need you to come to Silicon Valley, right? What are you doing now?
Book the ticket. Book the plane ticket. I'm on the plane there.
I'm coming in amongst the pets. I don't care. I don't need a seat. I'm coming.
This is different, right? And this is a span in the works here. And maybe this highlights a point. For a career in medicine or as a doctor, I'm not willing to sacrifice XYZ that we've talked about and go to another country, no matter what the salary, no matter the lifestyle or being on a beach or whatever, right? But for Peerr and what we're trying to achieve with Peerr and the vision we have for it, and we know there are sacrifices to be made, I may hate it moving to Silicon Valley or America, but I think it's a sacrifice worth making if I can do it for a purpose and a vision greater than me, right?
So you're talking about the opportunity cost, right?
Opportunity. So for medicine, so maybe now you break it down is for medicine as a career, as a job, I don't think it's worthwhile working elsewhere for the money, whatever, and sacrificing those family relationships. But for Peerr, which is a dream, which is a vision, a mission, then it's like, okay, fine. Then I would give it a lot of thought, a lot of deep thought. I'll speak to my friends, I'll speak to my family and say, yo, because regret minimization, right? Let's say you don't go, forget the money. Let's say you don't go and you don't in this environment, right? Is that something you're going to regret later? Me not going to work in Australia is not something I'm going to regret. Me not going to America for Peerr, something I'm going to regret. And I know my family, they will push me to go. Whereas for medicine, my mum might be like, nah, do you know what? Stay at home. Do you see what I mean? Completely. What about you?
So, no, completely agree with that. So, if the opportunity, I was discussing this with my wife actually. I was saying, you know what? If Peerr starts to grow even more and somehow a venture capital from America reaches out and they give me a significant sum of capital to support me, what do we do? And she didn't hesitate to say, because I think you're right. For medicine, even if it was a banking job, a corporate job, whatever, I wouldn't do it, right? Because there's that study, isn't there? I think happiness plateaus a little bit at about £70,000, I think.
So every £1 you earn above £70,000 doesn't give you any more happiness, right? 70 is the limit or whatever they talk about.
So very important number for everyone to know, all right? So £70,000 is achievable in the UK, easy.
As a doctor, right?
As a doctor, come on, it's easy. You can't say it's that hard. As a doctor, you can achieve £70,000 a year. Yes, I get it. The working life balance and all those matters and everything. Let's focus in on just the money aspect of it, right? So the lucrative salaries in America of $200,000-300,000 a year, it's great. It's great, fantastic, but it's not enough to take me over from here. It's not enough to tear those roots away. Now, if you ask me about Peerr now, the vision of Peerr, the ability to put education across the world into the hands of people that have zero access. I was watching the founder of Udemy, and he talked about how through the internet you can give the tool of education where people can go get jobs and whatever, right? So if we can do that through Peerr, right, that is something that will tear through those roots, right? But what it will do, it won't tear through those roots. My family and everyone will support me on that mission because
push you to do it.
they are a part of that mission. They are a part of that legacy. My mum is a part of my legacy. She put education inside of me. She educated me. She took me to school, brought me back from school. She told me how valuable education was, right? And when I explained to her Peerr's vision, she was like, that is incredible, and I can't wait for you to do that, for you to be able to connect people from America, London, Australia, Bangladesh, to connect everyone through the tool of education is going to be incredible. And so if someone like Sequoia, if you're listening and you want to invest, right, just emails down below. But hands down, I would get on a ticket, economy class. I don't need first class. I don't need business class. I'll sit right near the toilet. I'm going straight there. I'll sit in the toilet.
I think it highlights then for us how we've changed as individuals from really on it, aspiring surgeons, to now this journey of socializing education, putting education in the hands of people where family and friends will stop us from working abroad. Yet for Peerr and our mission, we're willing to sacrifice all of that. But then we don't see it as it is a sacrifice, but it's like to achieve something bigger and better than us. So that's very interesting. But then that goes on to the point where it's like maybe we're in a very biased, privileged position where the world is so accessible now with technology, right? Whereas so our end goal is obviously Peerr, put education in the hands of everyone, whereas someone else's end goal is, you know, maybe monetary gain or be a consultant, whatever. We can still achieve what we want to achieve without having to relocate, which other careers may not. You may need to physically go to certain places in the world for training. You may need to go to America, get a fellowship to come back here and get a certain post. You see, whereas with entrepreneurship, I think the beauty in a very digitally connected world is we can still do it from the comfort of our own homes.
No, I absolutely agree. But you know what? Even the question of relocating, if you're watching this video and you can even entertain the idea of relocating, you're privileged. By hands up. Because if I go back to my 16-year-old self, 17-year-old self, I can't afford the USMLE exams. I can't afford a plane ticket to go get interviewed at the hospital, right? So
you need to do fellowships out there. You have to shadow. How are you going to pay for that, right? If you're already struggling on a basic salary. So let's talk about that then. So are the people that relocate individuals that are privileged, and is relocated out of the question for people that come from poor, disadvantaged backgrounds?
So here's my tip to you, right? So
and what should they do then?
So exactly. So let's go back to that. Let's talk about medical students, whether they should have foresight and prepare to relocate if they want to. Okay. So what I would say is that right now you might be in a state where you can't afford the plane ticket, the shadowing experience. You can't even afford the visa, the USMLE exams, and so forth. All right. You might be in that. But again, go back to strategy, okay? Strategize your way there. You know, you're right. We are absolutely privileged right now to even consider the concept of relocating, because that means you've got enough money to get onto a plane, okay? So it is a privilege that we never had before. But what you can do is you can sort of earn that privilege through medicine. Once you complete the medical degree, you do F1, F2, suddenly you got a job, you got earnings. That degree is recognized abroad. You can sit other exams. You can afford the USMLE now. You can afford a plane ticket. Do you see? Leveraging your education to earn privilege. Okay, so we are privileged now, but it's been earned through all of the stuff that we've done, right? So if you're a med student now and you're thinking about America, right? What would you say to them? Are you saying right now, no, focus on the UK exams, focus on F1, F2, then you might think about, if you don't like the UK system, do the USMLE step 1 then? Or are you saying, you know what, start thinking about the USMLE step 1 now? Obviously we know Usama, we know, who's the other dude that went to do orthopedics? Young, 2 years younger than us, I forgot his name.
Oh, I know him.
What's his name? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Was it Mustafa? I can't remember, but I don't know who you're talking about. So yeah, I did my BSc with him. So I think I like Osama's story, and I like the way he did it. Is a lot of people entertain the idea of going away to, let's pick America, right? A lot of people entertain the idea of going to America to work and be a doctor there. Only a very few people actually commit and do it. And I think if you are really on it, if you don't have any responsibilities, if you don't have any anchors or big, deep reasons why you need to be in the UK, then using and leveraging your position and scholarships and bursaries or whatever, definitely start preparing for it. I think you don't gain anything by being here if you know you want to end up in America and work there. You're just delaying it in a sense, right? Unless you want to work here, get some sort of experience, feel a bit more confident in your home native environment before you start practicing abroad, right? But if you're really, really serious about it, then definitely, if I was in your shoes, I'll start banging things out. I'll start preparing for it. And I think the one thing I would say is once you graduate, the ability to learn and study dwindles. Once you're on F1, once you're studying and stuff like that, revising for exams is a lot harder than it is when you're at medical school because you're already in exam mode, student mode, right? And responsibilities naturally increase as you progress in life, as you progress in your career. So long story short, bang it out while in medical school if you do want to go to America and you don't want to do kind of the F1, F2 thing. But definitely the other thing is social media is amazing. Speak to people that have been there on the journey. Speak to the people that are in abroad places. You know, I think Jess has that book about, physicians working abroad, how to do it, what's the process. Research it, then make an informed decision. But if you're on it, do it. If you're not and entertaining it, then fair enough. That's a whole different ballgame.
I agree. So I think if America is on your mind and you're considering sitting the USMLE exam, I think you should sit it during med school years because the exam is really heavy. Lots of science, lots of basic science in that. Lots of memorization of random proteins and stuff. And I think you have to memorize half the stuff in medical school in the UK. So why not go the full mile essentially? Exactly. You're having to learn all of that now. When you're on F1, F2, you don't use half the knowledge. And let's be honest, do you remember the clotting cascade off by heart? No, we don't. But it's examined in both the USMLE and in the UK exams. So I'd say definitely revise for it and prepare for it. Obviously, the caveat is it costs money to sit those exams. It's thousands, I hear. I forgot what the exact figure was, but
$1,000 or something like that.
It's not a cheap exam. So it does require you maybe, I don't know, applying for grants. I don't know, maybe getting a part-time job. But again, strategize your way to get to the end goal that you want. So obviously, we've spoken to a lot of our American colleagues, right? We know Dr. Cynthia, we know Osama. And we've got some insight into what it's like through them. We've never been, but through them. If our audience are thinking about America, apart from the money, what other things should they be aware of?
I think, so just remember back to Osama's episode, the change in lifestyle, the change in culture, understanding that when you move to places like these countries, you will be alone unless you have a pre-existing network there. And it's like starting again from scratch, especially with medicine, because medicine is still a hard job wherever you are in the world, right? It has its own innate pressures. And to deal with those pressures and to come home to an empty house with no one there, no support network, it's the emotional, mental side of things, right? That you need to be aware of. In addition to kind of the certificates, to graduating and all of that type of business.
I agree. So that's one factor. I think the second factor you have to be aware of, and Dr. Cynthia said this, right? Well, you might think F1's hard in this country. Boy, if you saw their internal residency is, right? It's crazy. She's on call for a week or whatever, non-stop or something, right? So she said, when I did F1 feels like a luxury compared to what I'm doing right now. She's not a consultant, so I have to make that clear. And training is only 3 years in the US as far as I understand.
3-4 years, I think.
But it's 3 years of graft. Worst, in my opinion, it's worse than an F1, F2, right? So when you have to think about it, not only is the USMLE tough and that examination, everything tough, it's hard to get matched into a job.
Exactly.
When you're in, it is 3 years of hell.
So that's the other thing, right? So when you see people working in America, working in Australia and Canada, you see the ones that popularize it and glamorize it are the ones that are in very good hospitals in New York, in Manhattan, in Brisbane, all the nice fancy cities, right? What are the people that go and don't get placements in this place and then some random ghetto, fam? Do you know what I mean? Like, so imagine you don't get matched and you're working hard for it and then you're stuck. So imagine we're doing all this hard work and grafting and then you're going to end up in some random state, in some dead hospital and you're like, crap, I didn't sign up for this.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't match. We see it on Twitter every year. And there are people in America, they've sat the USMLE, they passed the USMLE, and they haven't matched. So what if you don't match? So don't think it's just a smooth transition onto a plane and you get off and you walk into a hospital and you've got a job. So don't forget that. All right. So what about some of the nicer bits? What would you say are some of the nicer bits in America that people are, you know what, that's quite cool?
I think not just America, I think what seems to be good is kind of the culture amongst medics and doctors. I think it seems to be a bit more healthier, less toxic. There seems to be less complaining. I think they feel happy. I don't know if that's the things we see on social media, but I'm sure there are complaints. But the way I've seen doctors start to complain here in the UK compared to those abroad, they're not complaining like that. I don't know if the morale there is better or the work-life balance, the rotas are better.
Is it a result? So in America, is it a result of the more privatized system, though? I don't know. Is it because of that, though? Because I guess if they're getting involved when you're referring, they're not so pushy with it. It's because they get a cut of the money, essentially. I don't know how it works there.
I think it's difficult. But, long story short, people that are out there, and obviously social media is a facade at sometimes. You feel like, they're real doctors. They're enjoying life. They made the right decision. It's worth it. No one's going to share their bad bits. No one's going to share their crap on calls wherever you are in the world. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree.
It feels like, do you know what? Maybe it is better to go abroad.
The grass is greener again.
The whole grass is greener.
You know, one cool thing that I have to say in America, and I think we heard it from Shirin, I think, when she said about their take list being limited. So you're not overworked, essentially. So after a certain number of patients, they go to a different team. I think that's a good system because in the UK, when you're on take, right, it's unlimited. If 100 walk through, you're working through as many as you can until you get to the bottom of that list. And if you don't manage, then it just gets handed over to the next team, right?
Yeah. So the practice, so those stuff, I don't know what you call it, maybe the work pressures or whatever, they seem to be a bit more feasible in countries abroad. I think in Australia, they were saying their own calls is split into 3. So here in the UK, it's 12 hours. They do like 8 hours.
That is pretty cool as well.
So there's 3 doctors or 3 on-call doctors during that 1 24-hour period. And that makes sense. That feels more natural because the natural working day is 9 to 5.
Yeah.
The vast majority of our friends and family work 9 to 5. Here we are with a 12-hour shift. Do you see what I mean? But we're so normalized and acclimatized to it that it's normal for us, right? But if I say to my mates, like, I do a 12-hour shift, they're like, what? Like, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, when you think about it, I regularly do my 12-hour shifts and I just think, that is really long compared to your average shift. I mean?
So, it's an interesting debate, and I think not a lot of people talk about. I don't know if they talk about the reality, but they talk about the sacrifices or the bad bits of.
Yeah, I guess people need to be careful about just saying, I'm just gonna move countries. You have to look at your surrounding environment. You have to look at where your roots are. I think there's a few friends that come to mind though, and I can see them just jumping ship. It won't hurt them as much. They can take everyone with them, and they'll adjust very quickly. But again, it's all circumstantial. They don't have the deeper roots. They've moved already 3 or 4 times.
At the same
I
time,
haven't.
I met an old friend from medical school today, who isn't married, who doesn't have kids, who's about to do radiology, who I said, have you thought about going abroad? And he said, I don't want to go abroad. Like, I was born and brought up here. I count myself as British. I'm part of the culture here. My family are here. He goes, even though I'm not like deep rooted with it, I don't want to go abroad and work in random places or in a different country. I want to be here. This is my home. Why should I work somewhere else? And I'm happy with the salary. I'm happy with my career progression. And it's interesting, right?
Yeah,
so someone that doesn't have any deep ties still doesn't want to go abroad.
Let's talk about something else now. So let's talk about London. Let's talk about how actually great London is. So you've been out of London. We've been on placements away from London. What does London give you? What is it giving you? Apart from your friends and all of the people that are around you, what is it about London that's special?
So we can say this for a different video. We're talking about it in depth. But having worked in cities outside of London, cities that tend to be quieter, London works for me as an individual, which necessarily isn't the case because I know people that are out in, let's say, Coventry and Birmingham, whatever, is with what I want to do and my ambitions and my career and where I want to go, London is a hub for, it's not the only hub for innovation, but the fast pace, the networking opportunities, the hustle and bustle. I love that and I thrive in those environments.
Yeah.
I was born and brought up in central London, right? King's Cross, continuously busy. I now live in Camden, which is even more busier, right? I love that lifestyle. I love being there. I love the hustle and bustle. You know, where I live, 3 o'clock in the morning is the same as 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? It's just continuously full of people. And everyone's fast-paced. Everyone's on it. Everyone wants to achieve. You got a lot of go-getters here. A lot of financial districts, capitals. Everything's in London, right? It's the hub. It's the main city. It's such a multicultural, diverse place.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was in Coventry, I didn't experience that. I didn't see that. Life was a bit more mellow. Everyone was more relaxed. They hated London. They thought London was too chaotic, too dramatic. Everyone's rushing. Everyone's too busy about themselves, and they hated the thought of working in London. They wanted to stay there forever. And I hated it. And that's the reason why, despite, you know, having like a good, decent foundation training, the things outside of work, other than my flatmates, I was like, yeah, do you know what? I was yearning to come back to London.
No, I agree completely. So London, apart, like the roots, apart from just the family and everything, the roots of being in the environment as well. Like you said, the hustle and bustle. And one thing I really like is that we can be recording today right now. I can then go meet a friend from medical school. I can go then meet someone from my startup. And then I could go chill with friends from college. I've done that all within the space of, like, what? London is how many miles from side to side? I don't really know, but it's not very big, right? So I think the idea of being surrounded by constant people on the go that you can meet up with, you can network with, you can start projects with as well. That's really important. Like your passions, it's not projects only. It's not startups and hustles only. You can play your tennis, your football, everything.
In London, I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like London has more opportunities. And I remember one of the YouTubers I spoke to, they were saying, like, you know, when you're in an environment with other like-minded individuals where everyone else is hustling, everyone else is grafting, everyone else is networking, like, that's where you want to be. But it's not just London. There are other major cities like Manchester, like Birmingham, where they do have these networks, where they are doing pretty much the same thing. Obviously, just we're born and brought up in London. It's home for us. But the lifestyle London has is more fitting for my personality, for my character in this moment in time. Don't get me wrong, there may be a time when I'm a bit more older where I do want the quiet country life or whatever, right? But yeah, right now, London is the place to be.
Absolutely. All right then, so let's take it back to the question of today then. So why haven't we entertained going abroad, in a nutshell? So my main reasons were obviously my roots and the opportunity cost. It's not enough to go abroad for essentially the money, because my working life balance, my life is balanced with my startup and my family essentially. And if there's nothing for my startup and my family, I don't want to go. But if it changes on that perspective, then the opportunity opens up. That's my personal opinion. In terms of, if you're a medical student watching this, if you're thinking about moving abroad, go and get information, go and speak to people who've done it. And I always say, don't just get one person's opinion, get loads of people's opinions, really get into their mind and their experience, and then make an informed choice. Obviously, whilst you've got minimal responsibilities, you can go and taste it, try and get there, try and do an elective, try and go abroad for all of those things. For exams, find out what exams you need to sit, become informed on it.
I think I'd agree with you. I think the sacrifices that need to be made for a career in medicine outside of the UK are not worth it for me. No matter how much money, how good the opportunity is, or whatever the perks are, sacrificing friends, family relationship, it's not worth it. But if it is something like Peerr, which is our purpose, our mission, then I'm more akin or inclined to revisit the decision, and most likely will take that thing. But for medicine as a career, like I want to do it in the UK. If I do practice, I want to be here. I was born and brought up here. This is where I called home. This is where I studied. So yeah, I do not see myself leaving the UK anytime soon for medicine.
Amazing. Otherwise, that's it for today. Let us know your thoughts. Are you thinking about moving abroad? How are you preparing so other people can get involved with you, I guess? And share your thoughts. What do you think about life abroad? And if you are abroad, if you are in America, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, wherever you are, share your experience. What is it like being a medical student and a doctor there for our audience? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.